I don't know where I'm going, I'm on my way.
Oh.
Taking my time, but I don't know where.
We tried to dance to a Paul Simon song to get us hyped up for this video, and I can say for me that it didn't really work.
No? No endorphins circulating through your system?
Not as many as I'd like, Tanner.
Well, you are a little bit sick, Samantha.
Yeah, I'm not feeling so hot today, which is why it's perfect that we're talking about something Tanner has a lot more experience with than me, and that is Mormon Mission.
Yay!
Yay!
Zelf.
On the shelf.
We always dive right in, and then we edit the video and we watch the video and we're like, we need to be way more on it, we are not entertaining anymore. And we need to be high energy, louder than normal.
Or
we
they
could
won't
look
love
better
us.
than we do. Or we won't feel worthy of existence. Okay, so obviously if you're a Mormon man, you pretty much have to go on a mission. Agree, disagree?
Agree.
Agree. Okay.
So there are these like tacit cultural things that's like, we don't judge the people who don't go. We just assume that they either have some chronic condition or watch porn.
And ladies, we do not marry them.
We don't.
Oh, I've heard that the church is now doing a thing where if you have anxiety or depression, because apparently that's really common among missionaries and it's causing them to come home a lot, they'll send you on a 3-month mission before you go out on a 2-year one to see if you're kind of up to the task, which is interesting. Seems like a pretty good response to the fact that so many missionaries are coming home because of depression and anxiety, because as we always say, it's such a psychologically damaging environment, and if you don't have anxiety and depression before you go, it's not weird at all that you have it by the time you're on it.
You'll be well acquainted before
Yeah.
you go home.
Yeah, definitely a terrifying part of Mormonism, especially from my perspective as someone who didn't grow up in it. I guess for you, culturally normal. What did you think growing up? Were you always excited to go on a mission, or were you like, oh shit, I have to do this thing that sounds horrible?
It was literally the foundation of my life. Like, it was everything that framed in my future, because obviously marriage and children is the most important thing, but like the precursor for that is the mission.
Right.
And the mission indicates to you what kind of person you are, what kind of leader you're going to be in the church, what kind of father you're going to be. It's like the ultimate test of your worthiness. And so everything I did from a small child till I was 19 years old, and well, I guess, 21, was with the mindset of being the best missionary that I could be. And so no wonder I was so disappointed when I got out there and was just like, this is not what I signed up for.
I was gonna say, if you spend your whole life thinking something's gonna be this enormously amazing thing, I mean, did you get on the mission and immediately think, oh, this is different than I thought it was gonna be, or?
So let's back up a little bit. First of all, I got my call to Brazil, João Pessoa, and when I got it, I was really disappointed.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I wanted to teach in English.
Oh, because you're so good with words. You thought, I'll lose it in a different language. I'll lose it.
Yeah, and I thought, I could probably be a more effective teacher if I just do it in my own language. And I thought, like, everybody goes to Brazil, so I'm not special at all.
Were you excited to learn a language, or were you like, oh?
I guess, like, eventually I kind of made my peace with it and was excited to do it. But was a little bit disappointed at first. Went to the Brazilian MTC, the Missionary Training Center, and stayed there for 9 weeks.
Okay.
And the Brazilian MTC is better than the American one because you're allowed to leave and kind of walk around the neighborhood and mingle a bit, which is nice. Cool. And it's a little less strict. So like Sundays you can just like veg out, which I never got to do for the rest of my mission.
Or probably ever in your life up to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I actually, for some reason, thought you went to the Paraiba MTC this whole time.
No, yeah. So I was there in Brazil, and it was like, I went in just so super serious about, like, way too serious.
I can imagine.
I mean,
probably looking 9 years old as well.
Yep.
Let's put up a picture of what you looked like when you entered the mission
that
field.
Superman picture. Yeah, it's funny because before my mission I was like trying to get so serious about the gospel. I'm like a naturally playful, fun-loving person, and I had it in my mind after going through the temple that anytime I made, or even before the temple actually, that anytime I made people laugh, I was doing a bad thing.
You were talking about this the other day, didn't you say you felt sick every time?
Yeah, literal like stomach ache. This knot.
And then you said you left the church and you realised you had a knot in your stomach like your whole life. Because of making people laugh.
Because it made people laugh.
Unbelievable.
Because in the temple you make the promise to avoid all loud laughter. And I read various quotes from like Spencer W. Kimball that's like, loud laughter is a symptom of an empty mind, and da 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 da.
So did you think, sorry to just like focus in on this, but obviously general authoritism, people will make jokes in talks. Were you like, oh, it's okay if it's just like a little
if it's
joke,
a little chuckle here and there is nice.
But if it's
you get people going, then it's
if
like,
they're ruffling, then it's bad.
Yeah, I used to text my friends and be like, I'm so sorry for honoring my priest.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You used to text your friends and say sorry for making them laugh.
Yeah, like or sorry for like being such a bad priesthood holder and that sort of thing.
How did they act?
Yeah, you were fine, you're so good.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I was overly serious going into the mission field, just like way too sober, and so I got there and I realized that like not everyone else had that same idea, that we were just gonna like get to the mission and work some serious miracles, like do a serious work for God, like Alma and Amulek, who I had been reading about since I was 2. And so I just wanted to go there and be the best, most prepared missionary I could be. I didn't Gordon B. Hinckley, the president of the church, said that boys shouldn't date before their mission, so I didn't have a girlfriend before my mission, didn't date.
Shocking.
Really, yeah, right. Just really wanted to focus in. And the MTC was really good. Like, it was hard learning the language. It was like all day, every day language, practicing, teaching, learning the discussions. It was pretty exhausting. But I had a great group of people that I was with.
I've always imagined the MTC being kind of like in some ways the least terrible part of the mission, because it kind of just feels like a camp and everyone's kind of in the same boat, and I imagine there being more camaraderie. Whereas in the actual mission there's like just 2 of you sometimes for days at a time.
Exactly.
Which seems like it would be more lonely.
For a lot of people I think the MTC is the best part of the mission. It was certainly the most like spiritual part of my mission, because you're just like studying all day and you're on these close quarters with people and you're getting very vulnerable and all hyped up on what like theoretical spirituality is supposed to look like, whereas you get into the actual thing and you're like, oh, this sucks. And that's what happened to me. I got out into the actual field and was just immediately like, oh shit, this is not what I spent my whole life preparing for.
I'm just imagining like a little Mormon boy just being let loose on Brazil. It's weird enough even in your own country, but like then to add to it the fact that you're in another country where you don't know the social norms at all.
Yeah. And then my trainer, my first companion, didn't speak English, and I didn't speak hardly a lick of Brazilian.
Oh, they just do that shit on purpose, don't they? They're like, we'll give him one that doesn't speak English to just like break him in. He'll be so fucking lonely. He'll have to learn the language.
It was the first time, it was the first time in my life I prayed to die. I don't know if it was like that much, but it was like, oh, if I get hit by a bus, that could be the best thing that could happen to me, because then I could just like be done with this. I could go home and not lose my honor.
How soon into this was that?
This was like with the whole first month, I would say, was just one of the worst months of my whole life. There was an American living in the house. We had 2 companionships. There was another American, and I was like looking to him for some support, be like, hey, let me know that this gets better. And he told me, the mission is the biggest lie in the church.
Oh god.
And I was just like, oh fuck. So and part of it was just the missionaries themselves. Like my first zone meeting, so a zone, you have your companionship, then you have a district, which is like a group of about 6 missionaries, and then your zone, which is about 12 to 20. And in this zone, they were asking questions like, okay, well, how do we get more people to baptize? Because it was just baptism. The only thing that matters is baptism. And and I said, well, we could teach by the Spirit. And I was told the Spirit is for goleros, and a golero is a goalie, someone who keeps people from scoring, from making a goal. So anyone who stops baptisms from happening is called a golero. And they said the Spirit is for goleros, because if you're going by the Spirit, you're not going to be baptizing people. You need to be getting in there and like working the, I don't know, being more charismatic about it, or really the way that most people baptize in that area was young kids. So the first area I was in, the previous transfer, so like 6 weeks, they had baptized some 50 kids between the age of 8 and 16, and like 60, and I'd say one of them were still going to church, and only half of them had been confirmed.
They had to have their parents' permission though, didn't they?
Yeah, technically, so they'd be like, hey, we're going to go play soccer down at the church, but to play soccer, you got to get baptized in our church.
And the parents would be like, sure, fine.
Like, sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they would like wear the whole outfit and they would get dunked, and I guess it's a hot country.
Yeah, I mean, you can take a little swim in our little pool inside. It's fun.
Okay, so that must have been horrifying for you.
Oh, it was truly a nightmare. I like, it was one of my biggest tests, like the biggest test of faith I'd ever had, because I was like, oh, this is just like a multi-level marketing scheme. Like, we're using really scummy sales tactics, and we're doing these rote presentations every time. There's no like personal connection with the people, no going by the Spirit. And so I just thought, well, this may be like the hardest, this is why they call it the hardest 2 years of your life, and where they separate the wheat from the tares. So even though if everyone's doing this like shit mission, I still have to just buckle down and do what I think is right.
Did you perceive that like support for the football baptisms or whatever, did it go all the way to the top? Like, did your mission president know about it?
So that's kind of the tricky thing. I had 2 mission presidents. My first one was Brazilian and the second one was American. And the first one, he would say like, this isn't what we're supposed to do. We need to be baptizing more men so that they can be leaders and have the priesthood. But at the same time, every month they published a mission newsletter, and in that mission newsletter, they would post the highest baptizers of the mission. Right. So if you baptize 50 kids, it wouldn't say kids, it would just say 50 baptisms, and it would be like, oh, and then those people would be called to leadership positions and things. So it was kind of like, on the one hand disapproving, but then on the other hand totally rewarding, because he wanted to be the highest we used to be the highest baptizing mission in the world, and they want to maintain that, and he wants to be called to be a 70 after the mission. So
imagine trying to get like 60 kids to get baptized in like, I don't know, England or Finland or just somewhere like that.
You walk down the street in Brazil and they'll yell, hey missionary, or they'll usually say, hey German, do magic, because they just assume the missionaries are going to teach them magic, because that's what you do. You show up, you teach them some magic, you make some friends, you get them baptized.
Right.
Easy.
It's a good strategy.
I guess.
And I kind of just assumed that you had a background in magic, am I wrong?
I did.
You just seem like someone that knew magic as a kid. Okay, so you realized this isn't what I thought. You said it was the hardest test of your faith, but it sounds like you were still like not doubting the church.
Not doubting the church. So like, I'd already had this idea that there was like the church, which is, has faults and imperfections, and then there's the core gospel. And I was like, even if the mission has some things wrong with it, the core church and the gospel that it's based on is still true. And then probably after about 6 months, I was actually pretty soon in the mission. I want to tell a story first. Okay. In this first area, this was I was doing like splits with one of the missionaries with a different companion, and we show up to teach this girl he's been teaching, and we walk in and she goes, hey Marcus, and I'm like, Marcus? That's a first name, because missionaries don't have first names. No. That's so stupid how you have to like pretend like you don't have one and you like keep it a secret. It's so dumb.
That's cults, Tanner.
Total identity erasure.
Alright, so quick technical difficulty break, as usual. So you come over to this woman's house and she says she's read the passage that you gave her to read, and he said, what did you think of it? Resume.
So he said, what did you think of it? And she said, I had a dream. And he said, tell me about the dream. And she said, I had a dream, you and I were walking down the beach and you weren't wearing these clothes. and he goes, do you believe that that's a sign that the Book of Mormon is true? And she goes, sure. And he was like, great, will you follow the example of Jesus Christ and be baptized on such and such date?
Listen, you have to give it to him.
And that's just like the run-of-the-mill kind of treatment with the Book of Mormon thing. I read the Book of Mormon so many times before my mission and prayed every single time and never got an answer that it was right. In the MTC, I did it again, and after what felt like days of praying about it, I found it was just like, I'm not getting an answer because I already know that it's true. But that's the exact type of thing we'd say to people. They'd be like, we'd say, what happened when you prayed? And we'd say, I don't really feel anything. And we're like, well, how do you normally feel? And they say, good. And we say, okay, so good feelings come from God, and if you still felt good after you read it, that means it comes from God, because it didn't make you feel bad.
Never mind the numerous ways that could come back to bite you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about the weird changing light in this video.
Yeah, we might need to turn on another light in here.
We recently lost our lights that we were renting from someone, and we're too poor to buy new ones, so feel free to become a Patreon subscriber.
At least that. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, what are we talking about? Anything could be a sign that the Book of Mormon is true.
Mm-hmm. And yes. I forgot why I had originally brought that up, but...
because the girl wanted to walk on the beach, had a dream about walking on the beach.
Yeah, there's someone I was going to say even before all of that. I just thought it was a fun story. But I moved around on a bunch on my mission, so I don't know, normally you have a few handful of various companions that you live with during 6-week intervals, and potentially more, but that's the time of change. And I had like 25 companions throughout my whole thing, so I guess my mission president thought I'd be good to handle, you know, problematic missionaries who were like being super wicked and like I don't know, staying out too late or talking to a girl in the Word or something.
Good for you.
Yeah, so super righteous in that regard.
You must have had some good times on the mission.
Yeah.
What would you say was the most rewarding or kind of the happiest parts of the mission for you?
Once my first mission president left, I had more fear of him than I had love of him. It was like a respect born of fear. During my first year, he showed up unannounced, and our house was really messy, which caused me a lot of stress. And he came in and he goes, "Elders, what do you want? Look at all these crumbs here. The crumbs are going to bring in cockroaches, and the cockroaches are going to bring in lizards, and the lizards are going to bring in cats, and the cats are going to bring in dogs, and the dogs are going to bring in monkeys, and the monkeys are going to bring in lions. Elder, do you want a lion in this house?"
That right there is a ready-made skit we can make for this channel.
Totally.
Let's seriously make that.
There it is, prepackaged skit.
Let's recreate that.
And after that, he assigned me to be the house cleanliness leader, and he saw that I was responsible, and that's when he started moving me around.
Tana, I would love to assign you to be the house cleanliness monitor in our home.
I thought I already was.
If you would, okay, how dare you? In front of my best friends. Okay, so yeah, he started assigning shit.
Yeah, so once he left, I had some good times with him. I ended up enjoying him and his wife. His wife messaged me after I left the church and was like, "How could you say all these things?" Da, 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 da. And I was like, maybe if you could answer da, 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 da. First, I like blew it off and was like very nice. I was in that stage where I'm like, I'm not trying to like tell anyone about the church. I'm just leaving for me. And then finally, she like kept persisting, so I was like, okay, answer me these questions 23 and then maybe we can talk. And then she has never talked to me since. But after they left, I got a new mission president. He was from Arizona like me. We just got along really well. He really was like a surrogate father in a lot of ways, and that's the way they kind of want it to be, because you are separated from your family. You're not allowed to communicate with them save for one email a week, which is horrible when you're enduring like the worst strain of your life. And that would make it so much easier. Yeah. But they have this such a weird mentality that like it's gotta be hard, otherwise it's not right. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be. You could actually people would work harder and better if they were just in a better mental place that they could get from being able to communicate with family. Yeah. So foolish. But with that second mission president thing, like the mission kind of did change a little bit, so it wasn't so much oriented about like baptism at all costs. Like you had to take a kid to church like 8 weeks in a row, have their parents sign it, and also have a person who signed a paper saying that they would be responsible, a member would be responsible for taking them to church every week. So he like really was trying to make...
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, so it became like way too much work to baptize kids.
8 weeks in a row?
When normally it was like there 1 week, baptize the next, confirm the next, never see them again. Yeah, so he changed a lot of that. Still like had such an extreme focus on teaching men because they want to build up the infrastructure of the church. And of course women can't really do anything in the church. What's the point of saving a woman? If she comes to you, that's fine, but don't go out of your way to save women.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it's
I like
nice.
That. Yeah.
But he was also, so we said the first mission president was baptism by fire, or the baptism by water, and the second was baptism by fire.
I bet you guys loved saying
we
that.
loved it, and our mission baptisms plummeted, but we loved him, and he loved us, and he cried when he talked about how much he loved us.
We were so alive!
The first mission president, you get interviewed, right, and they ask you, are you masturbating, are you looking at porn, are you getting along with your companion? Okay, bye. Seriously, that quick, like, kid you not, less than a minute long interview. And then the second one sits down, I just want you to know I love you so much. And I was like, oh. And his wife was super fun. So I got to be an assistant, which there's 2 missionaries in every mission that kind of like help the missionary out, work in the office, and
APs.
travel around. Yeah, APs.
Yeah.
And so I got to do that, and that was actually like a lot of fun because it was less work.
Yeah, sounds a bit more luxe.
Yeah, more. We drove around in the Hilux, the car that he had, really nice, and. That was a lot of fun. The missionaries I worked with in the office were really cool. We played hide and seek. Right in the middle of my hide and seek story.
Okay.
So that was a fun part. There was different families that I got really close to. One family in particular I still think about and still friends with, and different people that you meet, members and converts, and you just could build a strong friendship with and have a lot of good times. Sometimes you have a really fun and cool companion. You just get along really well. And I got along with most of my companions, except, of the 25, I probably had 4 that were really difficult, okay. And they all came from the exact same place, a place that has a bad reputation.
Is it Utah?
No.
Where
is it? A place called Porto Alegre.
Oh, it was in Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're kind of the Texas of America.
Got
like,
it.
They had been they had been their own individual country, and so they have like a lot of this pride.
Yeah, that sounds
very
horrible.
machismo.
Yep.
And
I'm imagining a more Texas, and it's horrifying. Not that I've been. I'm sure it's great. I really want to visit Austin.
One of those companions, we were teaching. We were in this like ghetto, and dude just like was just an awful. He was like the Donald Trump of missionaries, just a total bully, like really aggressive and angry. And we went to go take this girl to church. This probably a 15-year-old girl. Who said she was going to come to church with us. She lives in the ghetto, the favela, and we show up and we can see her hide. She runs away, so she doesn't want us to see her. And so my companion goes into the house, just walks into the house, grabs her by the wrist, and drags her out of the house.
Is he a sociopath, do you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, excuse me.
If that happened in America and like someone's mom had seen it, that's a lawsuit right there.
Instantly.
God.
And she's like screaming, and I was like, oh, let go.
She was screaming?
She's like, stop.
Are you kidding me?
And I was just like, please, stop. And so finally he lets go, and he just takes off, angrily marching down the street, and then kind of like as like a way of like blowing smoke, I don't know, turns to a person, is like, can we teach you about the gospel? And they were like, sure. So we walk in, and then not after, like a minute after sitting down, 2 gunshots outside the house, 2 bullets go into the house, rattle by our legs, and we were just like, what the fuck? And the girl goes, welcome to the Pedregal, which is the name of the neighborhood.
Wait, the girl who he tried to drag to church?
No, different woman.
Wait.
But we got the bullets, we had the bullets. As like
why did they shoot? The woman shot?
No, I don't think it was the woman. Someone just like going by the house was probably trying to hit somebody else outside. Is what I think, and I think the bullets just went in. And that mission companion stole the bullet from me. I was his last companion, and he took it home, because we had them on our little desks. And I was like, where did my bullet go? And he goes, oh, I must have put it in my suitcase. And I was like, well, then you must get it out of your suitcase. And then he like looks through his whole thing, can't find it, and takes off.
Wow.
So.
But he loved that story.
Yeah, he loved that.
Okay, so number 1, were your parents terrified while you were on a mission? Or because you have so many brothers and sisters, were they chill?
I think all moms probably worry a bit about their sons and their daughters.
Do you feel pressure when you wrote to them to just say a bunch of good stuff? Like, presumably you didn't tell your mum that like you nearly got shot, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I told her that one or not. I think there's a tendency to like not say the worst stuff that goes on.
Yeah, definitely.
And you kind of, and because like my mom would forward my email to all the family, right. So I would try to like always present it as like, oh, I'm super happy and doing super good and we're having all this success, but then like sometimes I would just tell my mom, I'd be like, hey, I'm having like a really hard time, because I remember there was various points where I was so depressed. And didn't have like even like I couldn't even say I'm depressed. It was just like I have no, like I'm a bad person because I do not have the energy to get out of bed, but I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna trudge around just feeling like absolute shit.
So at that period of time in your life, you didn't understand the brain or depression or mental health enough to even think the words I'm depressed. It was all just converted into shame and guilt. Unless
it was I'm depressed because I must not be doing something well. And you know, you have your leaders, and this was a time where it was like a pretty remote area, which in the past, anytime they open up a new area, they just baptize like crazy because it's a new thing. People want to be part of an American church that has a fancy building.
Yes.
And so it had been open for a little while, so they were kind of used to having high baptisms. I show up, and we're not doing super great. Like, we were baptizing, but not really well. And we'd have our leaders call us, and they'd be like, what are you not doing right? And it's like, well, I don't know, I'm doing the best that I can. And they're like, well, I just want you to consider that you're probably not doing everything that you should, and you really need to step it up. And they really just put all that blame on you and make you feel like, I had some leaders who really made me feel bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just, this is how it is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard.
Yeah, God. It's amazing how many people think that shame is an effective motivator.
Yeah.
Because it really isn't.
Oh, here's a fun story. Sometimes people ask, and you always hear about it before the mission, about like casting out demons.
Oh yeah, especially in Brazil, aren't they quite superstitious?
Yeah, I mean mostly everybody's Christian, but there is like a heritage of macumba, which is like voodoo.
Okay.
Or spiritualism. I don't know what the actual word, but like summoning spirits through like shamanic drumming and things, which now I think is really cool and would love to be a part of. But back then I did not think that was so cool. We'd be like, they have like the macumberos, they have like vases around their house. So if you see a house with like vases on the roof, you're like, okay, we're not going there because it's evil spirits. And but one time I was a zone leader, and we had 2 sister missionaries who couldn't sleep at night. They were terrified. They thought their house was haunted, or what's the Mormon lingo for that?
No. What do Mormons say?
I forget.
The house was...
There was just like evil spirits in the house. So we go, and they had us. It's so funny too, because we were their leaders, which is not a priesthood office, and when you don't even use the priesthood to like dedicate a house, but so like the sisters technically could do that on their own, but we had to go do it.
Of course.
And they had us dedicate every room in the house.
Of course.
So we go by, like, say the exact same prayer every time. And we're like, I think one prayer is good enough, but... And then we found in their refrigerator a little bit of alcohol.
No, you did.
And it wasn't theirs. It had been left by somebody. So that answered why there were evil spirits in the house, because there was alcohol in the house. Just is a portal for demons.
Makes sense.
But yeah, the mission schedule is pretty crazy. You're working like, you wake up at 6:30, not allowed to sleep in. You have to get like right out of bed, and then you have like a couple hours of study, language study, and then you're out by like 10 in the morning, I think. And I had a companion who was like, I was like, Elder, you are the greatest missionary of all time. He was truly a robot. I don't know how he did it. But
probably, I'm sure there's some like
his dad was a mission president.
Reason.
He was like born and bred
just
for
been like so programmed to be robotic from birth.
Yeah, and had like grown up speaking Portuguese, so he knew the language really well. But we left the house 2 minutes late because I was busy doing stuff. And in his prayer, he was like, please bless us. Forgive us for leaving the house late. Don't withhold from us any souls who could be saved because of our negligence, or something like that.
Imagine thinking,
I am the worst.
Imagine thinking that souls might not get saved because you left your house 2 minutes late.
I know, so petty.
What kind of fucked up God would have that kind of system with 19-year-old boys?
Like, so sorry. I was gonna let you be saved in the celestial kingdom with your family,
but this guy,
this 20-year-old left the house 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
As an AP, we had to bust a couple elders who like had cell phones and were texting girls and like hooking up, and we had some pretty dramatic moments of like having to follow missionaries at night and like spy on them. It's so stupid. Now I look back and I'm like, he was like texting a girl and hooking up with a girl. That's and we acted like he was like the most vile, obscene sinner ever. It's so cringe.
Yeah, because you can't see outside of like the religious programming enough to recognize it's just a 19-year-old boy. He's been going at this probably for like, I don't know, a year or months and months without like any fun or anything, and he's just like kissing one girl, or I don't know. Yeah. I
think one of the biggest issues with Mormon missions, and it's something that I wish investigators, people who are like listening to the missionaries, I wish they could understand that even though there is like an element of selfless service in it, the mission is set up to make you, it is like a very self-serving thing. Like you want to have baptisms, you set these goals for baptisms, and like you don't really care who it is or how you get there. Even though sometimes you can, like I said, you of course can develop really close bonds with people.
And I'm sure it depends on the missionary as well.
Yes, but at the end of the day, like they think the missionaries really love them, but if they were to say, hey, we're not interested, most of the time it's like, okay, well, bye. Where you're not allowed to have like an authentic friendship. It's entirely performance based. If you're doing what I want you to do, I can continue associating with you, and if not, bye. So there is like just kind of a falseness about it that I never really got comfortable with. And partially because like you're not supposed to just stay and you know, shoot the breeze with somebody. You have to always be on the move, like deliver your message and move on. We weren't even allowed to eat dinner because it was wasting time. I'm
trying to remember what book I read a few years ago. It was about someone's mission in, I want to say Sweden or somewhere like that. Maybe it was Russia. Oh, I wish I could remember it. I feel like you might have read it as well. Anyway, it doesn't matter that much, but I read this book a few years ago by an ex-Mormon. I think it was just like an ebook or something. And the guy just talked about how he was on this bus and there was this crash, and like off the bus, some car accident, and he was sitting next to like a Christian missionary on the bus, like a sort of humanitarian missionary, and this missionary like ran off the bus to help, and he just had this moment of like, shit, I like can't help, like I'm not allowed, like I have to. He didn't have like a way to contact, he knew he'd get in so much trouble. He had to get this train to get to something, and it was just like he knew that he'd get in trouble for helping out in this situation where this would be like truly an act of service, like at a time when someone genuinely needs life-saving service, like for whatever, I can't remember the exact situation, but like they needed people, and he couldn't get off the bus and help because he had to go like teach some lesson to, you know, do something far less important.
Go to a mission meeting or something.
Yeah, I think it was a mission meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that made me feel a lot of sympathy.
That's so classic. Like, we weren't even allowed to do any kind of service on the mission. You're just supposed to be teaching. Some missions do service, and I think the church is actually like expanding its service mission program.
Because they know they have to.
And I think it's good. Yeah,
definitely. That's one thing that's always bothered me about Mormon missions, especially like not growing up in it, is how everyone calls it serving a mission and acts like it's this big thing of charity. And it isn't. It's like you're expected to do it. You're like completely brainwashed in it. Like you said, it's so self-serving. It really doesn't help many people.
Yeah, it really, like in other countries, it's pretty much like a prosperity gospel MLM.
Yeah.
It's like a way of improving your social status, like joining the Masons or something.
You're also not, missionaries aren't even really allowed to stay in contact with the people they baptize necessarily. It's not, I know that some people do and or whatever, but a lot of the time you are kind of tricking people into thinking there's a friendship there that there isn't, which I hate. But yeah, way less service than Mormons seem to think. Like, and I get it, because it's like 2 years doing that is a huge sacrifice. And it's miserable, so you have to believe it's, you know, the best thing in the world you could do, because like normal people don't do such grueling service for 2 years, and so you think this is the best thing ever. Sorry, I'm just saying stuff.
But you're not really.
Like how shitty it is isn't representative of how much you're helping people. Like you're helping people this much and suffering this much, and then there's so many other things you could do, even like Christian humanitarian projects and stuff, which also aren't the best because they can also be self-serving, but whatever, where you're helping people this much and only suffering this much. So it's just...
Here's a microcosm of that. Love microcosm. I had a companion who who thought whenever we were traveling, we should sleep on the floor
Oh,
because then we'd be rewarded for our sacrifice.
Just arbitrarily because you suffered more.
And that's kind of, I think that's kind of a Mormon mentality that like, if you're suffering, like the purpose of suffering is blessing, so the more you suffer, the more blessings.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because I think there's like a nugget of truth in that, where I think it's good in life to believe that your suffering can yield something good and make you more compassionate and all those things, but yeah, totally twisted.
Yeah, why bring it on yourself?
In that application.
In our mission, it was a rule that you had to say, I love you and the church is true to your companion every night. I love you and the church is true.
I hate how Mormons always make jokes like, the church is true, and I'm like, you sound so dumb. I used to do it all the time, but it's just like over the dumbest stuff. Anyway, yeah. Very quickly, if there's someone watching this that is considering going on a Mormon mission, or has maybe already been called to go on one, what's your advice?
Just don't. If I could do it all over again, I would love to, like, I think it'd be really cool for like 19, 20-year-olds to go to another country to learn from them rather than pretending to trying to teach them.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know anything about the world or myself, and to go and be like, tell a bunch of strangers how to live is just so weird. I wish I had gone in with more humility and just been like, I'm here to like learn from another culture. Teach me about what you know, and actually maybe do things that would be beneficial to them.
Not just try and impose your culture.
Yeah, when I left the mission, I was like, these people need education, not the church, to be honest. And in my mind, I justified it by being like, but education will prepare them to understand the gospel better. But I was like, this is obviously not what they need right now.
That's going to conclude this video. If you have any questions for Tanner about his mission, put them in the comments. Also, we would love to hear your cringiest mission stories, or your worst mission stories, or even your best mission stories. Yeah, just tell us about your mission. I'm sure there's some crazy stories we could hear about from you guys. We're going to leave a link to our Patreon in the description box. You can go support us if you like what we're doing and want to help us get likes. Okay, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. If you have any suggestions for future videos, let us know. Hope you're having a good day.
Bye.
Bye.